A lot of what we're looking at right now is how can we be human first, and then use these tools for areas, that okay, maybe if you're calling into the call center, and we have humans available to you, that's that's where you go first. That's your first choice. But if that does get backed up, then we give a customer the option to talk to an automated system or an automated prompt, and being able to use AI to make that better, certainly, but give them the human choice first and foremost.
Welcome to Pioneers, the show where we explore the intersection between humanity and AI. I'm your host, Ankur Patel. Over the last 10 years, I've built 3 AI startups, written 2 books about the subject, and I run a weekly AI newsletter. I also regularly teach and speak about the topic at conferences. This technology has grown faster than I think any of us could have imagined, and it's making us ask really important questions, such as how ethical is AI? What will this technology look like in a few years, let alone a few months? And most importantly, does it have the power to truly change the world? And what does it mean for you? On this show, I'll be interviewing the founders, operators, and pioneers that are introducing AI into their companies and industries. We'll be asking them the really heavy-hitting questions that make them dig deep into the core of what we do. And without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ankur Patel, and with me today is Jeremy Hodges, the CTO of Live Oak Bank. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Alcor. Appreciate it.
So Jeremy, could we start a little bit with background on Live Oak Bank and how it's different from traditional banks that our audience might be familiar with?
Yeah, certainly. So Live Oak Bank, it's still a founder-led company. So while we are a publicly traded organization, the very founders of the company are very much still in leadership roles today. And it was founded to really focus on bringing lending to small businesses. We have a very rich history from there in building innovative technology products that support banking institutions, spun out multiple technology companies from Live Oak over the years. There have been venture capital firms that have come out of Live Oak. So we have a very rich history in being on the forefront of fintech. But at the end of the day, our motto is treat every customer like the only customer. We truly are a small business bank by entrepreneurs for small businesses across the country. And it's really about using technology and spinning off technology that really supports those small businesses. I think what really makes Live Oak different is our people that are on the ground out there supporting small businesses, trying to get capital in their hands. I think that one of the most impactful stories that was before I joined at Live Oak, but was very much a big reason that even brought me here, was back during the pandemic. Small businesses were struggling to get the capital they need to keep their doors open, couldn't get meetings, with their local banks that maybe were just right up the street. And Live Oak would, put our salespeople on a plane, go meet with these small businesses in their place of business, fight for them, get them the capital they needed. And there's story after story after story of Live Oak really supporting and helping small businesses all across the country getting the capital that they need to run their business. And I think that just is very unique. Our motto being treat every customer like the only customer. And as the CTO, I think means that a big part of my job is to try to make sure that our technology is built in a way that makes every customer feel like we're building that technology just for them, where they are. So we're hyper focused on small businesses, on supporting small businesses and kind of their end-to-end financial needs. A large financial institution, one of the big five, they may not care as much about the small business, about the couple of $1 million that they're bringing into the bank. But, we live and breathe in and out every single day.
Yeah. I mean, Jeremy, I think it's very interesting that the firm got its origins during the height of the 2008, 2009 crisis, right? So one of the early digital banks serving entrepreneurs, small businesses over the last, 17 years or so with a long history. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit more around what the digital bank concept is and what helps you differentiate, with your products
what makes it really attractive for small businesses versus like maybe going to JP Morgan or Bank of America, one of these like giants that everyone is familiar with?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you're going to struggle to get any of those giant players on the phone or in your place of business. They're not going to know your business, understand your business. Live Oak, we have specific verticals that we focus on, whether it's an obstetricianist or a veterinarian, and we have individuals within Live Oak that understand and know those verticals inside and out and very well. So we're able to provide much more guidance on for an institution or a small business or a small business enterprise, and kind of what their needs are for that particular vertical. So you're going to get someone working with you that understands and knows your business very well and can help really guide that business. Our CEO provided an example recently. We provide a lot of support for storage units. And, we were able to send a veteran into a small business that had supported a community for a long time and were struggling from a cash flow perspective, and we were able to walk them through, how a storage unit of their size in their kind of community would go through a rate increase and get to a better cash flow perspective based on where they are as a bank. And you just wouldn't see one of these big players spend that kind of time with a single unit, storage provider in a small community, and really having that white glove support and that people aspect of things, even being a digital bank. And I think that that's really part of what makes us different. We really look at technology as an enabler of those types of things rather than a replacement for. So we should be using technology to give our teams more time to be having conversations with small businesses in what they're doing day in and day out and what they're critical of, rather than spending time having to wade through a whole bunch of paperwork. And so that's what we do is we provide technology that allows us really to provide even higher white glove support around that small business rather than trying to take away from it.
I think that's a beautiful segue into AI as well, which is, and I think what differentiates you among several things, right? And we'll talk about sort of the yield bearing products you have and the SBA loans, how you could serve your customers that way. But I think you mentioned that you can provide that personalized attention and care to the small businesses and entrepreneurs in ways that some of the very large banks are not able to. Now, given that we have AI, one of the use cases of AI is to take away more of the administrative work, as an example, so people at banks can spend more time with the end customer. There's also this question of, can AI help deliver more personalized services, whether that's phone calls, chatbots, just more personalization at scale. So I'm curious how you're thinking about taking AI and bringing it as part of the customer experience to make that connection with the customer better, but not diluting that personal attention and care that you're known for.
I think we're still very early in this journey, and being able to figure out the exact ways and what it looks like today and tomorrow is probably very different if we have this conversation again in a year and 18 months from now, just as quickly as things are moving. But a lot of what we're looking at right now is how can we be human first, and then use these tools for areas that, okay, maybe if you're calling into the call center and we have humans available to you, that's where you go first. That's your first choice. But if that does get backed up, then we give a customer the option to talk to an automated system or an automated prompt, and being able to use AI to make that better, certainly, but give them the human choice first and foremost. The same thing on all of our lending processes, making sure that we're not trying to hide behind a set of technology and put that necessarily as the first and foremost thing, but we're putting the human first. And then, yeah, we might use AI to create, an automatic prompt following up to be able to pull some documents. But that first interaction was first with the human that truly can understand their business needs and know where to direct things. But then we can use AI to support that in the background. And I think one of the things that we're constantly looking at, especially in customer-facing aspects right now of AI, is being very transparent with our customers when they're interacting with those things, making sure that again is the way that we would want to be treated in this type of scenario. We're treating others. We want to have clear information and knowledge, and know when AI is interacting with them and when it's not, and kind of being a human-centric and human-first approach. Now, that doesn't mean that we're scared of using these technologies or that we don't feel that this is, definitely the direction things are going. But we feel that if we focus more on the human aspect of things first, and then how can we enable that, support that, and make our processes more efficient on the back end, that we'll get a lot more value with our customers in that direction rather than going AI first or automation first.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you maintain that human to human connection and that relationship, but on the back end, Live Oak employees, for example, to serve the customer better, they're leveraging tools like AI to go in, access data more quickly, populate documents more quickly, whatever it might be. Maybe just to find the relevant answer more quickly, and
Absolutely.
then you maintain that human to human connection. So it allows your teams to leverage AI on the back end and then serve the customer. And I'm sure there might be really great AI first experiences you could introduce, but I think you're taking the mentality of it shouldn't replace the human to human relationship. And when you do introduce AI, you want to make that an authentic one by making it very clear that they're engaging with AI. They always have the option to go in and ask for a person to come on the line to be able to have a direct connection with.
Yep, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about yield bearing products, because I know this is a huge source of contention for a lot of business owners, a lot of startups and such, which is, and if you go and open an account with JP Morgan Chase, you will get a business checking account or business savings account, and the yield will be pretty nil. Might even be 0 basis points to even today, right? In a higher yielding environment. So could you talk a little bit about the products that you offer? And perhaps maybe it would be great if you could speak to, why you think the rest of the market, let's say more of the traditional market, doesn't typically offer yield to small businesses when in fact, that is one of the things that banks should do, is that they should basically pass some yield that the customer should receive. But it seems like it's more of the exception in business banking for small businesses versus the norm.
Being a digital first bank, this is just always how we've done it. This is how we've always provided a high interest savings and CD capabilities to our small businesses. And it's just very fundamentally different to how some of the big banks have grown. And for them to get off of that is just very difficult because they're so used to that model. And that's just never, a model that we've had. We've always had a high yield approach. So it makes it very straightforward and gives us, a massive benefit to be able to give our small businesses to have that, um, you know, honestly focus a little bit more on ourselves than, what others should or shouldn't be doing. I think the market has, started to move over the last couple of years. It's becoming very clear that a lot of the big players are having to provide more high yield accounts, and they're having to step in, and it is very difficult for them because it's a massive change to their business model. But for us, it's just straightforward. It's what we've always done. It's a strong performing. It's the right thing to do for our small businesses, and we'll continue to do that.
And then on the lending side, and I believe you're the largest SBA 7A lender by dollar volume. Could you talk a little bit about what that process looks like and what allows you to be very quick at getting quotes out and closing on those loans versus, let's say, the rest of the market here?
Yeah, one of the critical things that Live Oak does is, we are a very strong partner to the SBA. We work very closely with them. We understand the standard operating procedure inside and out. We have high expectation of all, of our loan officers and individuals within the lending department to understand the SBA, what goes into it. And one of the things that, Live Oak did very early on was digitize this process. And an entire loan origination system was built and spun out from Live Oak by digitizing this process very early on and really streamlining it. We're constantly looking and going through and looking at our processes and saying, are these the right processes? Do we need all of these things? And honestly, the all the AI capabilities are giving us just even that further push of, are these things absolutely required? Do we have to do all these? And there are certain requirements that 100%, we have to make sure are done for the SBA. We understand those inside and out. So this can be very different where you go to a local bank and work with a loan officer that maybe an SBA 7 loan is one of 7 deals they do, one of 10, one of 15, versus working with our team where this is all they do inside and out all day every day. The loan officers understand and know exactly what needs to be put together, both to do a deal with Live Oak and to get through the SBA process. One of the best things we can do for our customers is to let them know early if this is not a deal we can do for them, if this doesn't fall within our bucket, and we'll try to connect them with someone that can, or provide them the guidance if it's just not a deal that the SBA would underwrite and do. So we want to get that decision made very, very quickly and then go through the process from there. So a lot of it is just very, very deep domain expertise, understanding of what it does. This is a massive part of what Live Oak does all day, every day. And then a big part of it is, putting as much automation and technology together on the back end. And then now, with all the new AI tools, being able to streamline that even further and really challenge our processes that much further to say, are each one of these things absolutely required? Is there an easier way to do this? Can we simplify this process for our small business owners we support? And we are going through a massive effort right now to ensure that each and every one of our processes, each and every one of our documents we require truly are necessary to make the decision on being able to finance that small business or not.
This makes a lot of sense. I think you built a very modern lending process, including things like digitization early on. And then you challenge what are the absolute checks you need? What are the absolute steps of the process you need? But by whittling it down to the essentials, you're able to go in and cut down on that processing time, deliver a better experience to the borrower, and then be very forthright and clear to them. Is this a viable opportunity or not? And then if it is, then you're able to package that up faster than perhaps your peers, and that gives you an advantage as well in terms of closing, right? I think AI is seen as this basically this technology that can automate more of the, let's say, the remaining work that is perhaps more repetitive, more onerous and administrative than it needs to be, especially like this agentic AI that's come forth in the last couple of months, which is AI that is not just retrieving information and supplying that as an answer, but is actually taking outright actions, right? Actions that normally people would take, like let's say loan officers. So from your perspective, especially because you operate from this business first mentality, what does the business need? How do you make the business stronger, and the technology will help support that? From your perspective on the business side, where is there more opportunity or open opportunity to automate even a, let's say, pretty efficient process that you've built to date? Hey there, very quickly. We just released a new agentic AI platform that makes it possible to automate very complex knowledge work. Our platform makes it far easier to set up multi-agent systems that allow you to coordinate work across AI agents, human supervisors, and third-party systems. This is the future of agentic AI, helping people get work done more quickly, adding more efficiency and productivity and better customer experiences. So if you're interested in agentic AI and what it could do for your organization, please book time with our team today.
I think we have still a lot of opportunity to automate things just from a follow-up perspective, to make sure over a period of time that things are happening within timeframes that they're expected, as well as the collection of information, both simplifying how a small business can get us that information. One of the, probably one of the massive areas in, small business owners, I think will connect to this. Anytime they're dealing with probably anything in the financial world, whether it's their taxes, whether it's a loan, whether it's working with their accountant, there's probably a folder somewhere on their desktop or in their documents where they're just dropping all of these different files and things that they need for that. And that absolutely is a much better experience for a small business because that's the way they're used to working. But that can be difficult for a bank like ours to be. We want to be able to take that in. How do you process all of that information? Maybe it was even scanned in information where it's all sitting in the same PDF, and where we, in the past maybe would have spent the time to walk through all that manually. Now we're looking at more and more ways. Again, that's a very simple way to use some type of agentic AI to be able to process that, make decisions on it, drop it into the right places. And it's still a human that's going to do the final review. If something ends up in the wrong place, it's not the end of the world. They can move it to the right place for that loan, identify the right information off of it. So you still kind of have that human feedback loop in it. But that's a very critical area and way that we can do. There's a lot of things that we do that may fall within certain time frames. We need to follow up with things. We need to get something done in a certain time frame. We need a certain document in a time frame. Obviously, these are things that computers can much more easily follow up in the middle of the night, be available, check on those things. Small business owners are trying to run their business 9 to 5. And while we make every effort, we follow the sundown rule, right? We want to be able to respond to every customer before sundown. Sometimes small business owners are working way into the night trying to get these things done so that they can run their business during the day. And having the ability to respond to these requests, to be available where they are, when they are available, we have a lot of opportunity for that as well. Again, enhancing kind of that human-centric approach that we have rather than replacing it, but making sure that they're available whenever the small business owner needs to make that interaction.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we've seen is that people end up being the connective tissue to do the manual work in between, let's say, different pieces of software. So even if you design your process very elegantly, it's pretty efficient. There's going to be some legs of that workflow, that process that require people to step in and do. And up until now, it was too variable, too complex to go and trust like kind of software to be able to catch over. So you needed people to shuffle between one software or another, or one process or another. Now I think this is where AI that can reason and understand like people, that's where it's so powerful, right? So you can power basically like these digital colleagues, digital coworkers that on the back end are using these large language models, AI in its modern form, to go in and get more of this like connective tissue built out. And then what happens is that you still have people, they still have agency, but they're operating at the more tail end of that workflow, doing that final review as opposed to kind of shuffling things around. And there is so much of that type of work that happens in a complex organization. And that's where, agentic AI, AI that's taking action on behalf of people, I think that's where it could be really powerful. That's kind of the big avenue of opportunity. But the hard part is that it tends to be very bespoke based on the particular process that one bank has, and it differs, bank from bank. And how do you account for the basically the differences between one workflow and one bank to another, right? And so that's really the challenge that I think a lot of enterprises face when trying to solve for this.
Yeah, I think one of the other challenges that enterprises, companies, technology teams have in moments like this is there can be a lot of pressure to feel like you need to go out and do something just to prove that you're on the cutting edge of this technology, or you're on the wave, or you're not getting left behind. And you go out and you try to build a technology project just for technology's sake. And I think what we're trying to make sure that we do is really identify what the pain points of our customers are, of what our business partners are that are running these businesses day in and day out, and really hyper find where they're struggling and where this is the right technology to step in and provide. I think that often, way too often throughout my career, I've seen these massive technology projects kind of put in place, run multi-year investments. And if you go ask the business partners, they're saying, we never asked for this. This isn't what we need. This is making things even, more difficult on us. And while, AI certainly provides some massive capabilities that we haven't before, and some of this technology becomes that much better at doing these things, I still think it's really important that you find the business challenges, the business problems. Even within a company, 1,000-person company, I'm constantly thinking about, essentially, where is my product market pull, right? Where are there areas, there are business partners that are desperate, that, are doing these manual processes today that are destroying their teams because they're having to work late into the night. They're having to work weekends to try to get something done by, quarter close. How can we find, whether it's AI or it's non-AI, how can we find those areas and those opportunities to say, hey, we've got some technology. This couldn't have been done before. This would have been very difficult, very tedious. It would have been actually made things more difficult before. But actually, with the capabilities today, we can do this and we can make this easier and better for you. And your teams can actually go home at 6 o'clock at night, on the last day of the quarter, rather than being there until 11 o'clock trying to check all of this off. So coming from startups, having worked a couple startups, as well as some enterprises, I'm constantly thinking about what we're doing from that product centric standpoint. How is what we're developing and building truly meeting the business where they are and where their needs are, not just building cool AI technology for that I can show off at a conference and be, hey, look, I'm the CTO that did this cool AI thing. I'm much more focused on what are the people on the ground that are running this business, that are doing billions of dollars of lending every single year. Where are their needs? How can we meet them? How can we make their lives better? Because if we do that, they're ultimately going to make the lives of our small businesses that they're supporting better as well. As a whole, we say treat every customer like the only customer. I think that's really important internally as well. That we look and find what can we truly do that's going to impact their lives and make this much easier and better for them to interact and use these systems.
I love that line. Treat every customer as if they're the only customer. And by accomplishing that, you make that customer incredibly better off. And then that passes through to the customers that they have, right? Because you're enabling small businesses to be better versions, of themselves. So that makes a lot of sense. And I like that coordination with business. It's business led. I think we've kind of echoed that a few times here. Very helpful in terms of thinking through how technology could be an enabler. And could you share perhaps an example of a successful AI project that you've led and worked on at Live Oak Bank? And I'm very curious, what do you think were the key factors behind that success?
Don't know that we have any finished up and delivered any successes that I could really wrap up and be able to speak to. Everything we have is still very much early stage, very much underway. Trying to think of if there is at least a small win that would be a good story to share.
By the way, it's a pretty common thing we hear. There's a lot of experiments, things in flight. I think it's going to take time for it to land. And it's part of it is the complexity of this particular space, this vertical, and just also how quickly the technology is evolving, right? Very much understand that backdrop. But I think the blueprint you have is let's make sure whatever we're working on is something that the business would find a lot of value from. And then let's put technology together, like the technology team together, to go and work on it, right? I think that's the right frame. Certainly has a better odds of being successful than not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
I
I'm
know this
trying.
is not new to AI, but I'm curious if you could elaborate a little bit more on how you think about resource management, given the limited amount of bandwidth, attention, time, resources, all these things. When you think about which AI projects to take on and when, how do you go and do that prioritization over the course of the year?
We're kind of constantly trying to evolve in this, and making sure that we've got resources and teams available to our various lines of business, looking at their business goals and making sure that we're very clear on what they need from a technology perspective to be able to meet those goals, and then determine if we've got the resources available to do that. I think what's also important, especially when you're hyper focused on the business in the way that we are, is that you do set aside some resources on the technology side for focusing on your bigger platform type things, some R&D capabilities. And so we've just recently really started to make sure that we've got those rules clearly defined, and we've got individuals that are focused on being able to do that research, on being able to experiment and try some things. Where we want to, certainly be on the forefront of all of these technologies, even kind of in our more feature based and business line based teams. They can get a little caught up in having to deliver kind of that next thing, that next feature, that next fix for that line of business. And so, what I think is really critical is just a small team, but that you are carving away some highly skilled individuals with that capacity to really focus on the technology stack, on some R&D capabilities, on being able to look at the art of the possible. I think as a technology leader, being able to communicate that, being able to advocate for that investment is really important because it can be much more difficult to show a direct ROI or the direct impact on some of those things, and those require just a lot of experimentation, throwing some things out, working with some different third parties, doing some POCs. But I think that protecting that investment is really important and critical, so that you've got your focus, you've got your individuals that are learning those lines of business very deeply, embedded with them, guided on what their needs are for the year. But that you also have got these more horizontal functions and areas where you've got opportunity and investment in the broader technology, and you're making continuous improvements within that space as well. Prioritization is always a challenge, and no matter kind of how you organize the team. I've never worked for any team that there wasn't more work coming in than there was to be done, and so then that means you got to prioritize something. For us, we look at it in making sure we're setting aside capacity to support the various lines of business, that they've got the support, they've got engineers that understand and know their business, that spend time with the business leaders, so that we can deliver the needs for their business and move the ball forward, for the different areas there. But just making sure we're also reserving that technical capacity and have the room and the space for some research, some trying some things, both from a people standpoint as well as an investment infrastructure standpoint.
How do you think about staying on top of everything that's happening in AI, given how quickly it's moving? And then maybe to frame that question, I think the options could be bringing on additional AI talent to complement the talent that the team has. It could be upskilling the team's awareness and understanding and experience with AI, or it could also be working with third-party players, including consulting firms or software vendors. But it seems like you need to figure out the balance of how to go make the existing team better, how to bring new AI talent to the mix, and then how to work with third-party partners as well to go and stay on top of the latest and greatest, and of course adopt it in a way that moves the needle for the business at large.
It's extremely difficult and to stay on top of things. I mean, I've never felt so much that I can go a 24 or 48-hour period and get so far behind in where the industry is going and moving. And I feel a profound sense of responsibility on my shoulders to be following that and being able to bring that back to the company, to my team, to really put a fire under our team and what is capable. I think that as engineers, we can tend to look at what can't be done or what the challenges are going to be, and trying to keep focused on, but look what can. This really is a moment that you don't want to get left behind in the industry. So, I think it's probably a combination of all of these things that you mentioned. It takes putting an effort in making tools available to our teams, encouraging them, letting them know that it is a safe space to be able to, work with these things, test these things, various AI tools to be able to bring different ideas to the table, to provide resources internally, to be able to test things, to make sure that there's a time available to play with new tools, to connect with each other. We have various programs internally for sharing information. I personally used complete prompt engineering development to create an old school, early Dig 1.0 like forum for our teams to be able to share different AI things, especially around some of the agentic AI processes that we're developing and using, so they can share that information. They can have a resource to be able to go there and to show them from my seat, what what could be built, what's capable, what can be done. And so I think that those are very important. But then just continuing to be out there, right there, you can't develop all of that internally. We've got to be out there looking. We've got to be willing to have conversations about, what other people are doing, do proofs of concept, try out different things, and find, what is that right balance. So, I don't think that there's any one way to do it. I think that it does take a varied effort, but it does take absolute effort, and you can very much easily get caught behind. So we've done a lot here at the beginning of 2025 to really put things in place to set aside time to research these things, to have team resources available, to have tools in their hands, but then also to have a team that is focused on R&D, AI capabilities, automation. And so, being able to balance all of those things to bringing it to the team as a whole, but then also have dedicated resources that are looking at it and focused on, what the capabilities are, and looking at outside resources as well. So I think it has to be a combination of all of these things for the team to stay on top of it.
Really appreciate your thoughtful approach around this, because I think what you've said is, whatever you end up working on, make sure that it has the chance to move the needle materially for the business at large. So it's business led, IT enabled, and then when you think about the IT and engineering team, you're carving out time for your team to learn and play with and experience some of the newer technology. There's collaboration happening through internal communication, but at the same time, you realize that you do need to bring in some external AI into the mix, and that happens with learning and helps you. It basically helps you increase the bandwidth of what's possible in terms of the AI initiatives you take. So working with third-party partners to help with that, and then getting that basically that balance of learning internally and working with external vendors, right, to move the needle materially for the business side. I think that that's a incredible blueprint. It's very thoughtful, and then I think you're right. I think given this time in the inflection point with AI, you have to go and experiment. You have to take your bets. You have to really take time to experience it. You can't sit on the sidelines. I think that's very much a mistake. Just like, if you were to sit on the sidelines with the internet and said, "Hey, let's wait for things to pan out," you might find yourself 5, 7 years behind, and then it's very, very hard to come back, right? So I think you have to have skin in the game. You have to go and participate, but you also need to be thoughtful. And I think what I've appreciated from you, Jeremy, is that you and Live Oak have a very thoughtful approach around how to go and bring AI into the DNA of your company.
Yeah, and we couldn't do this without incredible business leaders across the entire bank. Being the environment that is set up around me to be able to be a part of it. I have incredible partners and leaders that give us the space, that give us the time, that encourage us to be able to go after these things. It really is about that partnership. In a lot of other organizations that maybe I've been a part of in the past, that would have been very, very difficult to do. And there's just kind of this continued deep relationship between our technology leaders, our business partners. And that's really from the top down, right? That is from our founders, from our board members that are constantly pushing us to be better, to be on the cutting edge of technology, to make sure that we're doing that in a way that is really right and reasonable and sound for our small businesses that we're supporting. But without that partnership, without just incredible business leaders, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
Well, Jeremy, I'm excited to follow you and reconnect over the coming months and years to see that progress as well. But I really appreciate the very thoughtful conversation, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.